Right? We should be live. Okay, hello everyone. This is the Vista news stream number 2. Now I prepared a lot more for this, so this should be a lot better. So let's segue into our news section. See that? It's cool. But before that, we're going to talk about ridiculous technology, which is what I'm going to start off with for now on, and then save the best articles for last. So this is definitely not ridiculous technology, but this is a liquid-cooled power supply, which is apparently 1200 to 1400 watts with an RGB fan, which, you know, is just combining two fads at the moment. Definitely the RGB. RGB everything is really hip right now. And then water cooling. I mean, I don't see why you need this, because you can get like Corsair. You can get a 1600 watt power supply. That doesn't need any of this special stuff. And I can't see pricing here, but I'm sure you're paying some ridiculous premium just to get a power supply. So with that, let's actually segue into our news section. So our first article of the day is not the first ever Lexus, whatever that is. Amazon will now deliver packages to the trunk of your car. So, if you remember, earlier this year, or maybe it was last year, I don't know, Amazon came out with this program where they would, where you would be able to unlock, they'd be able to unlock their front door and unlock your front door and leave packages in there. And a lot of people actually trusted Amazon enough to do this, but now they're putting it in the back of your car, which is pretty ridiculous. But I mean, might be convenient for some people if you don't have a street address, but you do have a car, they can deliver to your car, but there are certain limits. If we look down here, I believe there's a weight and price limit. And this only applies to GM and Volvo cars, so I'm sure they have some sort of sponsorship going there. So see, yeah, it can't weigh over 50 pounds, be larger than 26 by 21 by 16 inches, or have a value of $1,300 or more. So, I mean, great for some people, and then absolutely useless for others. Now let's check out this one. This is actually pretty cool. So this is the ID Cooling IS60, which is a low profile heater. Cryorig recently came out with a copper version like this. It heats at and what's cool about this is it supports AM4, so you can hook it up to your Ryzen CPU, but it's very good for small form factor computer cases. So if you have a build that's in a tight space and you have a limited amount of space that you can build in, and you need a cooler, not a lot of coolers will fit and like leave room for actual airflow, but this seems to address that, which is pretty cool. Next article today is AMD officially discloses the Ryzen 2200GE and 2400GE. So if you remember, they recently launched the 2200G and the 2400G, which were processors that integrated Ryzen and the Vega graphics into one chip, and they cost actually pretty reasonable prices. And many YouTubers like Bitwit, Paul's Hardware have done testing with this and find out that this is actually a pretty decent source if you just need some like budget gaming or something of the like. Now this is an energy efficient, so it has a much lower TDP. I mean, 35 watts is pretty good. So we might, I'm not, this is not definitive, this is my own speculation. We might be seeing this in graphics cards. So instead of dealing with older standards, we'll have this, which is pretty cool. Alright, our next article is from these first couple are all from Tech Power Up. Is the Intel Stratix, which is capable of 10 trillion calculations per second. Contains 30 billion transistors, and this is just really cool. It just shows that we have this goal of quantum computing, and while that is somewhat being realized, this is a huge step forward in terms of power you can get out of your computer. Right, this one's from Ars Technica, and this one, experts say that Tesla has repeated car industry mistakes from the 1980s. So basically, what this article about is Tesla tried to turn the whole production process of their cars into complete machine run, and that did not turn out well for them. Similar, as the article points out, similar automobile makers have tried this in the past, and it didn't really work out for them, because there's some things that only people can do like well. So they realized that, and now they're back to figuring things out. So next we have 6 first-generation AMD Rison processor models reach EOL. And this means that the first-gen Ryzen processors are no longer going to be in production. Which, the Ryzen 1, I think it deserves a farewell, because it really gave Intel like a kick to the stomach, because they had controlled the processor industry for a decade, and now someone has actually come along to challenge them. And that's good, because it means lower prices for us, which is just an all-around win-win good situation. And it's sad to see them go. But we have new processors now, and they're newer, better, and faster. So farewell, you will not be forgotten, and thanks. Right, this is another one from Ars Technica. So you remember before I talked about the Bitcoin heist, apparently he was arrested in Amsterdam after leaving prison. So from what I understand, people store Bitcoin on hard drives, and this guy snagged this cryptocurrency. What he was going to do with it, I don't know. He's probably going to sell it or use it for illegal things, the works, but good that they managed to catch him. This is another one from Ars Technica. The unpatchable exploit that makes every current Nintendo Switch hackable. So basically, what happened is this hacking group was able to unlock the bootloader of the Nintendo Switch, which means that it had been like locked before, but now this could open the doors to some more homebrew projects and such with the Switch, which is kind of cool. It also creates some security concerns, but we'll just have to wait and see. Right, this is another one from Tech Power Up. The 8600 just launched. I haven't read much about it, but you can't overclock it like you can with the 8600K, but it's just interesting. And this one's pretty interesting too. MSI and AMD prepare their combat crate bundles. So basically what this is AMD is taking their old stock of Ryzen 1 that is now end of life, and they're bundling it with graphics cards, and they're shipping it out. They've partnered with MSI, and the graphics cards are said to be in the bundle are said to be near MSRP, which is excellent. As was pointed out in the Awesome Hardware stream on Tuesday, it is kind of sad that we consider normal pricing to be excellent these days, but you know, what can you do? Crypto miners and memory shortages really don't help. Now, this is the biggest article today, is the upcoming hardware launches. So Zen Plus has already been launched. There's a possible release of a 2800X, like there was a Ryzen 1800X. Zen 2 release date speculated to be 2019 with a 7nm process, which is smaller than the Zen Plus, which I believe is 12nm. It's going to be using the same AM4 socket as the previous Ryzen Zen Plus and Zen architectures. Then we have Zen 3, which is supposed to use the same architecture, released in 2020. Some new process, we don't know. Some new CPU core, we really don't know. Second gen Threadripper, 2018, sometime this year, 20nm process. Zen Plus architecture stays on the same socket as first gen Threadripper, which is TR4. Third gen stays on TR4, 2019, and we don't know a whole lot about that. Intel Coffee Lake, i5 8600 just launched. Some more CPUs are expected. Sure, great. With fixes against Spectre rather, and Meltdown. The 8086, which is I think it's great that they're commemorating that, because the 8086 is what kicked off this whole x86 architecture snowball that has gotten us to the point where we are now. And the x86 architecture won't last forever, but while we have it, it's lasted this long. It's lasted 40 years, which is crazy. So Intel is commemorating it with a 4 gig base 5 gigahertz boost processor with 12 megabytes of cache and the same 14nm process as the i7. It's practically a rebanded 8700K. Cannon Lake, which is the sequel to Coffee Lake, sometime later this year with a 10nm process, so a smaller process and some new instructions. Ice Lake, which would be next year or later, which would use a 10nm process, same as Cannon Lake would, but more refined, and then new instruction sets. On the graphics side of things, we have Vega, machine learning versions and die shrinks to 7nm, Navi or Navy, however you want to say that, probably Navi, release date 2019, 7nm, then we have Intel Discrete, 2019 or after, some other things we don't know, NVIDIA, which already kicked off with the Titan V, which is like $3,000, so great, because no one can afford anything graphics cards wise anymore. 12nm process, and if crypto mining hasn't stopped, which it probably won't, and memory shortages don't stop, which they probably won't, they're probably going to suffer from the same price inflation that current gen cards are suffering from. Turing, which would be third quarter of this year, a gaming GPU that's between Pascal and Ampere, Pascal being the current 10 series cards like 1050, 1060, 1070, 1080, and the TIs, and then Ampere release date this year, and which is a more gaming focused platform, and then chipsets. Chipsets don't really change much, but memory, DDR5 we're going to be seeing a rollout next year or 2 years from now, with memory clocks between 4800 6400, which is cool, and expected to be using 7nm processes, which is cool. We're gonna have new graphics memory, and we're gonna have HBM3 memory. PCI 4 is gonna be rolling out sometime soon, and PCIe 5 rather, PCIe 4. PCIe 5 is going to be rolled out first quarter of this year. Okay, well that wraps it up, folks. Thanks for watching. I know this has been a bit longer than last time, but hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got something out of this, and hopefully the video quality isn't too bad, because I am outside today because it is a nice day. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next week.